Robbie, the retained release list was done on Monday. We can get your thoughts on that first of all. It must be quite a tough day, but one of course that's really important as we move in towards the summer.
Yeah, it's never easy conversations to have with those players that we're not offering contracts to, and I just want to put on record really my thanks for their efforts during the season. All contributed, and some were very difficult decisions to make. With that in mind, it gives us an opportunity to freshen up the squad. Now I've been in this job for a season, recognise where I think we can improve and where we can recruit, and obviously that's at our level sort of part and parcel of the job, I guess.
Just on that, where do you hope to see the sort of biggest improvements next season? What's your kind of thoughts on that? What you're looking for that's different to what we've maybe achieved or done this year?
Yeah, well, I think we were very young this year, and there was reasons for that. So although that has many benefits, and we're developing players and they're learning on the job, a little bit more experience and know-how in certain positions will be helpful. That in mind, the exuberance and the energy that young players bring is also very important. So having that blend of our own and bringing players in will be really, really important moving forward to try and have a more successful season next year than we did this.
There's a stat just come out either today or yesterday which shows we've given the most number of minutes to under 23s in the league this season. Was that planned or almost forced upon you given the situation last summer?
I don't think it was planned. I sort of, through my background as a coach, I believe that if you're good enough, you're old enough, and I do think at times we were a little bit naive in games and the game management side, and you could see when we played against teams with more experience of this level that we came up short. So that's not against the young players. A lot of the time they were learning on the job. I think of some of the loan players we brought in, it was their very first sort of senior action. If we use Jarrell as an example, probably he'd be the first to say that the level and the physicality of the league sort of caught him out at times, and then he grew and we stuck by him because we could see the attributes that he had, and he probably finished one of our most consistent and best players. So that in mind, recruitment will be key, as it always is, and that process is well on the way to try and get a more successful team on the pitch.
Do you have a number of additions in mind that you hope to sort of hit, or is it very much a case of looking to see what's available for positions, or how do you sort of go into that recruitment process?
So my recruitment process starts with the positions that we need to fill. I think that's quite clear, and that'll be the priority, but it will also depend on those players that we've offered contracts to see if they accept, because that could change our thinking as well. So we won't know that for a little bit of time, but even putting that aside, there's certainly 3 or 4 key positions that I think I need to get right, and that process has already started.
Yeah, in terms of reflecting back on the season, you've mentioned a few times you would sit down with us to reflect on the season. How would you sum it up overall?
Inconsistent. It was challenging, certainly at times, and there was probably one really sticky moment where we had to batten down the hatches and get our head down and get some results, and thankfully we did. So I do understand the position that I find myself in sometimes, and it's not, I don't go into it blind by any means, but at times we were very good as well. I look back to certainly just after the start of the season, we had a spell where we were picking up some really good results. We were sort of flirting with the playoffs. Players were in good form. We got up Burnley, and then after that we hit another dip, and maybe that's a little bit of naivety on my part. So first and foremost, I always look at myself. There's no point anything. That's where it starts, and that's where it stops really. So I reflect on myself. Where can I get better? But I think in hindsight, that fact that we go back to how young we were, sort of those levels of consistency can be sort of in and out. So moving into January, obviously we lost 2 key players, and in both Aaron and Jake, we lost a big part of our team, and they were very difficult to replace. But I do believe that the players we've brought in, given time, will be very successful here.
Losing those 2 players in January, looking back now, did that have a bigger impact on the team than you may have thought at that point?
Possibly. There's plenty of stats to say we were doing an awful lot of good things in games. Our XG was very high, and But yeah, I think the physicality certainly that Jake brought was a huge loss for us. You know, the way that he could run, press. He was always put defenders on the back foot, which then got the team up the pitch. And obviously Aaron's passing ability was, well, it's his ability to pass the ball is way higher than what he's playing at the moment even, so he's got the chance to kick on. But I do genuinely believe that once we get the players into a pre-season that we brought in, that we can sort of mould the team in a little bit different, both technically and tactically, and the attributes these players have got will be very high in our division next year.
You mentioned there you always look at yourself. What do you believe you've learnt yourself personally and as a manager this year?
So self-reflection really. So I've made mistakes. I've made some errors of judgment. We've sort of been a little bit too nice, I think, on the pitch, and that will change in the way that I recruit. And really, you know, certainly when you go through that difficult time, I found a way that I can get through it, and I found a way that we need to start playing that I think can get us results on a more consistent basis. So bearing that in mind, that will be the full focus of me now. From, you know, there'll be no rest. It's the phone's constantly working. I'm meeting players all the time. We'll try and get some downtime with the family at some point, but it's a 24-hour job, and you know, it's sort of whetted my appetite to think of the games that we played here, where other teams have got something to play for at the top end of the table. I want that to be us, and I want that to be me. So the hard work starts again now.
Looking at the positives from this season, would you say our home form's up there? We only lost, was it sort of 4 or 5 games all season at home in the league?
We did, and even those draws, it was on a knife edge. You know, it could have gone either way. So I always want the home form to be good. I won't say that we played brilliantly in every game, but we showed at moments where everything clicked and we were good. So yeah, we need to maintain that. We need to turn more draws into wins. And like I say, we weren't a million miles off in a lot of games this year. It was a fine line. It was the odd goal here and there. So if we fall on the right side of that more often than not, then the points tally should be a lot higher.
And then looking at the away form, it was great to finish on a win, as we said on Saturday. And I'd imagine you'd be looking for more of the same next season. Yeah,
and I think, again, when it's a football game, we've been really competitive in them. Sometimes those real physical teams that we come against in both areas, that's where we've come up a little bit shy. So we need to rectify that. We need to recruit properly to get that sorted. But yeah, the sole aim in every game is to play our best, to perform well, and give the supporters something to cheer. And if we can do that, then that's the improvement that we're looking for.
What have you learnt most about League Two coming in as manager this year that you can take away into the summer?
I think there's a real mix of teams. You know, the budgets in this division are you know, you've got some at the very top end and some at the lower end, and I know where we fit into that. But I think the style of players is really interesting. You've got teams that love to play football like ourselves, and we'll try and play a certain way. But then you go to, I won't mention them because it sounds like I'm having a dig. I'm not at all. It's a different way of playing, but it's one extreme to the other at times, and I think we need to be better at dealing with that. I'm not saying we're going to play like that, but we need to deal with that better. And stand up to that physical challenge a little bit better. So it's been challenging, it's been interesting, but the biggest thing is it's been a massive learning curve, and through that and looking forward, we can use that as a motivation to get better.
When you come in the summer, obviously the board were very upfront and open and honest with you about the situation at the club. Some curveballs were thrown in quite early, and there's been obviously other things throughout the season. Did it end up far different to maybe what you thought you were coming into, and you've had to sort of think and learn on your feet as you went?
Yeah, I've been on many a coaching course and, you know, diplomas and all the rest of it. Nothing could prepare me for what we came into. But credit to the club, you know, the board and the supporters were together, and you know, I know there's still a couple of little issues in the background, but on the whole, that they came through it, and I think it's credit to everybody involved with that you come out the other side a little bit stronger. And this is our club, it's the supporters club. and we want to put a team on the pitch that they can be proud of, and that's my job. I accept that, and the buck stops with me, but the fact that we did get through it shows what can be done when everybody's together, and hopefully moving forward that'll be the case, that we can put a successful team out there.
Going back to recruitment, those that have been offered contracts, do they have a time frame to let you know, or is that kind of fluid and ongoing?
There's a soft expiry date on that. You know, there'll obviously be room for negotiations and stuff like that, so I won't get too het up that it's not happening in the next couple of days. People are away on holiday, it's hard to get hold of people, but yeah, I won't be hanging around forever, that's for sure, because we need to make sure that if those players don't accept the terms that we eventually get to, that I need to look elsewhere. So everybody's very sensible in that situation, the players know that, and it would be very naive to sit here and think that the players aren't looking elsewhere as well to see what's out there, and that's the name of the game. So am I, so we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks with that.
In terms of the players you've been in contact with already who are not at the club, have those discussions been quite positive so far?
I think so. I think this football club's an attractive proposition. I think the reputation that we had last year for certainly the style and the identity of our play. And yeah, people are contacting me to say that they want to have chats, so that's really good. It's not so much me doing the chasing with every player. People are wanting to speak to us, so with that in mind, it should be another busy summer for everybody, yeah.
Looking at the second year scholars who will be offered, obviously talks are continuing with Peter Thomas, but Jordan Scanlon's the other one. For fans that maybe haven't had a chance to see them, because obviously the games were played behind closed doors for most of his first year and some of his second year, can you tell us a little bit about Jordan and what you see in him?
Yeah, so Jordan's been training with the first team for a long time now. It's that development pathway that we have, and I work very closely with Tony and Chris in the academy. Jordan is a midfielder / forward. The biggest compliment I can give him is he doesn't look out of place in first team training. You know, he's got a little bit of bite about him as well. You know, he's not afraid to sort of mix it physically with the players, although there's a lot of work for him to do there. And Jordan will come back into us, as will the other youth team players, because we'll be down on numbers, I'm sure, by the start of the season. It's a funny one because we start before contracts expire, pre-season wise, so that'll take a little bit of planning, but they'll get their opportunities. And you know, I plan to run with a smaller squad than we did this year, because I want more quality rather than quantity, so those young players will get opportunities, and then it's down to them.
You mentioned there about size of squad. Are you looking at the loan market again, or will it be a bit of a mix, or do you hope to bring in more permanent players than? Or
no, so we obviously did our loans early last year, and I think everybody knows the reason that was. My plan, and I hope it goes to plan, is to go with a permanence to start with. It's very rare that you get loan players at the start of pre-season training anyway, because they're needed by the parent clubs to cover. But yeah, we will utilise the loan market. I think it's really important that we do, but probably not to the extent we did this year. Like I said, I don't want to get into a situation where we're changing 10 players again every transfer window. It's just not possible. You can't. I feel like I've had 2 teams here already, so the plan is to try and get some permanence in place. On the back of that, look what's available in the loan market, because there's always a surprise, and then take it from there. But yeah, I'm still in contact with those clubs that would loan us players, but until really they get their own squads back for pre-season training, you won't exactly know who's available.
I imagine as well you're looking very much forward to getting the long-term injured players back, the likes of James Ball and Tav, who've come in and made an initial impact. Then of course we lost them. Well,
that's it. Yeah, we were pretty unfortunate with a lot of injuries. Paul Downey was the same. Picked up an injury when he was here, so we missed him. So possibly even from the back end of January, we say we missed Aaron and Jake. We didn't get our strongest team on the pitch for one reason or another. So yeah, of course, a full pre-season will help me as well with the players, because I came in late on into pre-season last summer, so that can only be beneficial, and the players will come back and work hard and make sure everybody's up to speed to attack the season.
Are they likely to be ready to come back in for pre-season? Is their rehab and things going all right?
Yeah, so Ballie's pretty much fit as of now, really. You know, if we had another game next week, he'd be available, so that's fine. Tav had another scan on his foot, and the fracture's healing really well, so everyone's pretty pleased with him, but he should start pre-season training with us. And Paul Downing, obviously he's not our player, but we'll make sure there's a duty of care there to see how fit we can get him. But again, it's a relatively new injury, that, so we'll have to wait and see what the next set of scans say.
Yep. And Jimmy Kiwahan, he was set to have an operation last week. Did he come through that okay?
He did, yeah, on his shoulder. I think it's been coming out for quite a significant time. He's not been able to take throw-ins for about a season and a half, I believe, or not proper ones. So yeah, Jimmy went under the knife last week. Everything was pretty straightforward in terms of that, but it's quite a long period before he can return to physical training in terms of contact. Obviously we've got to be really careful that it doesn't come out again, so he'll have his own programme to start pre-season, but we're hoping by the time the season comes round he should be available.
We've also announced that Jim McNulty signed an extension to his player-coach contract. How has Jim found the environment this season, sort of stepping up to taking on more responsibility and more of a coach? We all know the kind of personality he's got, but how have you found working alongside him?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, great guy, can talk for Britain, so that we need to have a word with that. But yeah, in general terms, Jimmy is a really big influence on the players. He will be used in terms of that even more. Next season we'll rely on him more to get the message across, but I've got a specific plan with him in terms of his coaching as well, so we'll help him develop that side of it. And what he can offer us in terms of individual work, especially with the younger defenders, has been invaluable. You know, he's somebody that knows the club very well. He knows what we expect because he's got the same values as ourselves, and we'll be using Jim, you know, as much as we possibly can to get those messages across and help him in his next part of his career. Saying that, he's still played very well when he's been called on, and I think he'd like to make sure that if that comes again next year, that he can do himself justice on the pitch. So yeah, it's something that we'll look to really adapt and give him more responsibility.
Sticking with defender Sam Graham's been out on loan in Notts County. Will he remain out there obviously towards the end of the season and see where they are sort of playoff wise? Yeah, so it looks like they're going to be in the playoffs, so his season will get extended anyway with that situation. But Sam at the moment will report back to us probably maybe a touch later than the other lads because his season's been extended. Again, stop-start season for him with ourselves, got injured, but this is a really good loan opportunity for him to go and play some minutes at a very good level and at a good club, so we'll see how he gets on for the remainder of the season. Just finally, a message for supporters who stuck with us throughout the campaign. Yeah, and really appreciate that, and on the whole I've felt nothing but positive vibes from him, if you like. Now, I obviously understand criticism is going to come my way when we're not winning, and I accept that. But with their support moving forward, I hope that we can have a much more successful season next year and start climbing the table and looking at the top end rather than where we ended up this year. Season cards went on sale on Monday. Do you hope as many fans as possible will buy those season cards and come out week in, week out next season here at home? Of course, because it helps me as well, you know, with the finances that come into the club, obviously. Gives us more chance to attract the players that we want, but to try and get the atmosphere here going a little bit. You know, we've had moments this year when we've given them something really to support, and they've backed us all the way with that. And you know, I know that we need to improve. I know I need to improve, and the plan is in place to do that. But it will make it so much easier with their support.